This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Well, thank you so much for being with us on UBC TV, and welcome to this other extra part where we're going to be focusing on issues of protecting your money. And in case of any eventualities that the people you trusted your money with are unable to do so. But get me right, when I talk about people, I'm referring to credited financial institutions. More so here, we know the banks. If they fail, maybe they have closed, maybe of late in this 21st century, so many things are happening. COVID, Russia-Ukraine war, then there are so many excuses that are coming up. Some are really true, and they say we are unable. Where do we run to? Well, I don't know if you've heard of the Deposit Protection Fund. This was established in 2016 by the Financial Institution Act 3204, and now they said here is a safe landing. In case these people fail, you have where to go to, and they will ensure that you don't become a loser because of mistakes of other people. Remember, banks thrive on our money. That's why for me, when you meet me, when I go to the tailor to collect my money, good enough these days you have ATM cards, but previously I'd walk in like a boss. Hey, the most interesting place I would enjoy going would be a bank. Very proud because I would see I am the one employing these people, they are keeping my money, they are thriving on my deposits. So banks survive on our money. But remember, there could be incidents when they are not able to give you your money. Well, the good news I have people from the Deposit Protection Fund. You've been seeing that advert running all the time. So now we have them to better explain to us some of these things. And I'm glad to have, that is Miss Lisa Betty Oyele, who happens to be the portfolio manager at, that is DPF. You're most welcome.
Thank you so much, Robert, and thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Yeah.
I'm very excited to hear from you. Then on my extreme end, I have a very smart gentleman that even has made me scared. I don't know if I match the smartness this morning. And that is Alan Retebe, who happens to be the Director Investment. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Robert. Thank you for having us, and good morning, viewers. You're welcome.
Well, to begin with, UBC has been letting the public know through the adverts and all that, but to the people, and there's a saying, ladies first. So Lisa, I come to you.
Yes.
When you talk about the Deposit Protection Fund, for the person hearing about this for the first time, or even someone who has little knowledge about this, what are we referring to?
Thank you so much, Robert, and to you, the listeners. Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda was set up by an act of parliament, like Robert, you've already spoken to that. We were set up by an act of parliament, the Financial Institutions Amendment Act of 2016, and our mandate is to provide to protect depositors and pay protected or deposit protected sum in the unlikely event of a bank closure or a bank being liquidated. Just to be specific, is that this protected sum is to the tune of 10 million Uganda shillings currently as it stands. And right now that provides coverage to about 98% of the total depositors in the sector. Yeah, thank you.
Now you see in TV and radio, most of TV, which is not papers, you have what we call instant communication. Now, briefly, I'm going to bother you still to explain the tune of 10 million. What does this clarify when you say, just for clarity, this is a tune of 10 million? Throw more light on that as well.
Thank you, Robert. So, at the DPF, per depositor, per bank, should a bank close or go under, you are protected, or the DPF refunds you or pays back a limit of up to 10 million of your deposits in that particular bank. Yes. Anything over and above the 10 million will be paid, but after the finalization of the liquidation process.
Okay,
yes.
So as they're still struggling, at least I'm assured of 10 million.
Yes.
Well, very interesting. I have now more reasons to put my money in the bank. You know, we are still struggling with the Ugandans, telling them use banks. Yes. Men are still in the pot issue. Yes. And they will laugh when they see a message systems down. But going back to you, Alan, who are the people that are protected by the Deposit Protection Fund? Who qualifies?
Yes. Thank you for that question. But allow me just to lend my voice to what Lisa has shared. That DPF is a government agency which was set up by the amendment in the existing law in the Financial Institutions Act 2004. And so it took shape in 2017. And over the last 5 years, we've been working towards becoming more visible and, of course, making the public more aware about our work and, of course, the different coverage that we provide to banks. The biggest thing that we offer is that whenever an institution has had a challenge, the central bank has taken certain actions, closed the bank. We find from the history of Uganda, especially in the 1999s, 2000, when big banks like Cooperative Bank, Greenland were closed, that some individuals lost money. And so the government went ahead to set up the Deposit Protection Fund, that in the event that such scenarios happen again, an individual who is in such a bank that has been affected can be paid up to 10 million. And who do we cover? We actually cover every person that has an account in an institution that is regulated, supervised, and is deposit taking. So we are looking at institutions that are taking deposit from the public. These can be commercial banks. They could be credit institutions. They could be microfinance deposit taking institutions. But all these must be regulated by Bank of Uganda for them to qualify. And for any depositor that is in one of those institutions, that becomes the individual that we cover within our 10 million. So we are very narrow at the moment, focusing on institutions that are supervised, regulated by Bank of Uganda, and these institutions must be deposit taking. So we don't cover forex bureaus in our mandate.
Now this brings me to Lisa to understand, how do I know that my bank is contributing and or the financial institution I'm using to keep my money, in case of an eventuality, I can benefit from this?
Thank you so much, Robert. So when you walk to a banking hall, the best way you can confirm that your institution is licensed by Bank of Uganda, like my colleague Alan has already spoken to, those are the institutions, those are the only institutions that we cover. They must be licensed by the central bank. So when you walk to a banking hall, you will see the display of a license of the Central Bank of Uganda, that this institution is licensed by Bank of Uganda. But also the DPF has continuously taken steps to make sure that we put in the papers and in adverts to run that the deposits of a bank or a contributing institution is protected to this tone by the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda. And also in the banking halls, now you will also see a display of that a notice or statement that this bank is licensed by the central bank, and then there is another notice that is also informing depositors or customers of that bank that the depositors or the deposits in this bank are protected by the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda. Yes.
And Robert, if you have heard the adverts for many of the commercial banks and financial institutions on radio, even on TV, they have a statement that this financial institution is licensed by Bank of Uganda and the deposits are protected by the Deposit Protection Fund up to 10 million.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
That statement is required to be presented on every advert to ensure that individuals, depositors are aware that their institution is part or is participating within the Deposit Protection Framework. So this is one of the ways we ensure that that information is transmitted to everybody in Uganda.
Well, now that means, apart from saying I have an account, I deposit money, you must have an extra eye. Are my deposits protected by the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda? You have certain things you have to look out for. You know, Ugandans are so much into simplicity. Some of the things we think we must be aware of, we don't. All I care for, do you have a bank account? Oh, I've gotten one. Leave alone with the informal sector where you must have a bank account. Even those, when they are choosing which bank am I going to keep my money with, today they will say, what about Gaba loan? Do they give loans? Okay, how is it? How quick? How easy? How quick? How fast? If I'm this safe. But these are some of the things that are very, really important for you to find out. Now, this brings me to another question, Alan. Why should the public be interested in knowing about the Deposit Protection Fund? Because much as we've known what you do, we've known who qualifies, but Ugandans, one will even tell you, who cares? The money is there. When did you last hear of a bank closing? And so why should they be?
I think what is important for us to think about is the situation we experienced in 1998, 99, 2000, when a number of banks were closed. And some people lost money. People could not pay school fees, they could not pay their bills. For some individuals, it took months for them to get even $1 million shillings back. So why people should get involved or get interested in the work of the DPF is we are here to minimize that disruption. In the event that the bank is closed, we should be able to come in and provide you money. By law, the law says we should pay within 90 days. But our corporate strategy is to make sure we pay within 7 days. So within a week, we should be able to provide you money to continue doing the things that you need to do, paying school fees, paying your bills. Because a lot of us have our money, or we receive our salaries, we receive our payments through banks. So in the event a bank is closed, you may be disrupted. And so our job is to minimize this disruption to you as an individual or to a business by ensuring that we're able to provide some money very quickly that allows you to proceed. So what we are trying to do is that we work with the central bank, we work with contributing institutions or the licensed institutions to get as much information about the individuals that are banking. We need to know their names, we need to know their national identification numbers, we need to know where they reside, and we need to know whether they have alternative channels through which we can pay. So you find that in Uganda, some people use mobile money for business. So they have a bank account, but they also have mobile money. So if the bank is closed, they don't have another bank, but they may want to receive their money on mobile money. So we are also building capabilities. We are building a system that will allow us to actually send your money to your mobile money account. And so all these abilities help us to give and to foster confidence in the formal financial system. You know that many of people in Uganda don't keep money in the banks because they fear that if a bank fails, it will fail with their money. So we are eliminating or reducing that fear and allowing them to come and access many of the financial services and products by giving them this confidence that we exist. And one of the key information I can offer you is that 98% of the people within our banking system are covered with the 10 million coverage. And that for me would be a very positive thing because many Ugandans, that means many Ugandans that are in the formal system are covered within our 10 million coverage. And so for us, that is a very important message that we want to take across and to invite people to consider formal financial services as an area where they can keep their money.
Well, that sounds very interesting. And of course, you shouldn't have now excuses for why you keep your money under your mattress, you dig a hole somewhere in your house, you hide it wherever you do, because in case a bank closes, while the Deposit Protection Fund is there for you. Now, Lisa, this is a bit, you need to explain to us very well.
Yes.
You see, assurance is easily given. These things. Let me just give an example of insurance companies. Remember one time I had a bad day, I knocked someone and I have third party, everyone assured me I have third party. Just go. My God, third party didn't help me. But all along I was assured, get a third party, get a third party. Even traffic police officers were stopping, third party. So I knew things seemed automatic. Other institutions I won't mention, where it is seemingly assurance. You only understand that this wasn't assured assurance when the time comes. So how does a depositor acquire his protected money that we are discussing today, in case of any eventuality that a bank has closed, been liquidated, what do I follow, you know? And also, am I sure anyway? It's not just advert and all that. More so being that maybe we've not had a financial institution, a bank of late close, that you can look at and say, for this group of people they got, and because even when you had a Crane Bank, at least DFCU came in very fast. So we may not have a recent way to look at and say, well, you delivered. Yes.
Thank you so much, Robert. So, in the unlikely event that a bank closes and the DPF is called upon to make the payouts to the requisite depositors, there are always two alternatives that the DPF of Uganda can use. We can either pay through an alternative bank account or through mobile money. And I believe as Alan was making the presentation, he emphasized the fact that right now we are in the process of developing or working on a payout system that gets information on depositors real time. So we have this information on our depositors currently, and they tell us the names, the national ID number, your contact, and we are also requesting for an alternative contact detail, so that in that unlikely event, we can either pay you through an alternative bank account, or we can pay using the mobile account that you would have listed in your records. But second to the question, if the bank, in that unlikely event that the bank has collapsed and it has been liquidated, is the money available? I want to assure you, Robert, and all the listeners that DPF receives a premium on an annual basis from these contributing entities. These premiums are invested, they earn an income, and they're invested as per asset classes, or they're invested in safe securities. They're invested in the government of Uganda treasury bills and bonds, and the act or the law guides us on where we put this money, and the emphasis is always on safety, growth, and aspects of liquidity. The money should be available when it is needed due. And that is just to say that to date, the fund is actually in a total of about 1.2 trillion Uganda shillings.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, thank you.
The bad thing or the good thing is we haven't had any institution close for us to, to feel and judge and test. But of course, with that sufficient information, well, now we have that trust. Because you've rightly answered that question, where is the money? That was something goes on. Now, where do they get this money? Okay. But rightly explained. Yes, you want to supplement on that?
Yes, just to supplement a little, that we do receive contributions from banks, MDIs, microfinance institutions. They send money to us. This is done by law. It's a requirement by law for them to submit money to us. It is this money that we pull and invest in government securities. One of the reasons that has been given in the law that we must adhere to is to ensure that this money is available at short notice. So we cannot invest in forests, we cannot lend in agriculture, we cannot be buying roads. We invest in government securities that are able to pay us money, or we are able to sell them in the bond markets quickly to be able to raise this money to pay out. So because of that design, we are a bit more conservative in the way we invest. So we try to grow the money that the banks give to us. We grow this over years, and our target is to double the money we have today, such that we're able to cover more and more institutions. A key fact that we want to share, and you can see this in our financial statements, is that even with the 1 trillion that Lisa has highlighted, we are only able to cover 17% of insured deposits. So that means that our ESC at the East Africa level, the recommended limit is 20% that we should be covering, and we are slightly below that. And our corporate strategy is to increase and to invest this money to grow it to meet the ESC coverage limit of 20%. So we see that we are on the right track in terms of how we are supposed to be set up, but there's still a lot of work for us to do to be able to confidently manage to support the central bank in managing financial sector stability.
Now, with that well-articulated answer, how long must I wait?
To get your money,
Yes.
We are working, and for us, we are working to pay you in 5 days to 7 days. So we should not wait a long time to get your money. By law, the law requires that not to pay beyond 3 months. That is 90 days. So the way we are operating is that we should be able to pay you in 7 days or less. The biggest reason that we provide for 7 days is that some people don't have good information. A name is missing, you use Alan Norman Wetabe, then other times you use Alan Wetabe. Is it the same person? How do we know that we are paying the right person? So what we are trying to do is clean up our data, contacting and working with NITA, working with NIRA, working with the commercial bank and the central banks to ensure that we have a good understanding of the individual that we are about to pay. Now the system that Lisa is talking about will give us that ability. So we are able to know that this is Robert Chirabo of UBC. And his account was previously in this bank. The bank has closed and he has a mobile number X, and we can confirm that is his regular mobile number. So we can pay. If we have this information, we can even pay in 2 to 3 days. And that is how we are operating, to also be aligned with the digital changes that we are seeing in the country. So we don't want to wait for 90 days because you may need to pay school fees in a month.
That is a full term.
We want to be able to pay you in 3 to 5 days and give you this money so you can do what you have to do.
Now, Lisa, relatedly to that, you know, sometimes when banks are closing or they're getting liquidated, some of that information may not be readily or clearly available. Now, in such an incident, how would you go about that?
Thank you so much, Robert. So that question actually picks right from where Alan stopped. So in that vein, it is very important to make sure that the information or your details are up to date and are accurate with the different commercial banks that you put your money into. So in the event that that information is not up to date, the most immediate effect is that there is going to be delayed payment to that depositor. And of course then, because it involves, we need to look for the person, we need to verify the information. If you wrote 2 names and in your national ID there are 3, then we need to go through extensive processes of verifying that this person is actually the same as the person that the person claiming is the same person that we are seeing in the documents. And therefore that is one of the reasons why important to us being here is to encourage depositors to go to their respective banks and make sure that you provide an alternative payment platform. That can be another bank, it can also be an alternative mobile number, so that at any one point in any unlikely event, that information is with the deposit, with the DPF through the payout system that we have currently, so that in that event we are able to pay you within the days that we are currently striving to achieve. Yes, thank you.
Now, still,
Yes.
with you, Lisa, what happens in case I have more than 10 million? Because there are people that have mastered the art of finances,
Yes.
where they invest their money, they go to the bank, they bargain.
Yes.
I'm going to give you my 30 million for a period of 6 months as a fixed deposit or what, and I'm calculating that maybe after the 6 months I deposited 30 million, I may have maybe 35. And now here you are, your limit here is 10. So explain to us, because we could be people, we have money. We have our monies in these banks, our 50, 30 idle there.
Yes. So thank you so much, Robert. In the event that you have more than 10 million Uganda shillings on your account, the DPF will, within 7 days or 5, like Alan said, that is our desire, but the law gives us up to 90 days to make this payment. We will refund you up to a ton of 10 million Uganda shillings. The remaining balance will have to wait for the liquidation process that will be concluded or finalized by the central bank, and the proceeds from that liquidation process is what will be used to pay out the remaining balances. Also to emphasize that in the Financial Institutions Act, there is actually a hierarchy of repayment or refund in the event of a liquidation of a commercial bank or a financial institution that is licensed by the central bank. But Robert, that also takes me to one other critical point that Alan has been emphasizing throughout this show, that in as much as we encourage banks to know their customers, we also want to encourage the depositors to know their banks. So that at any one point, if you're going to have 100 million in a bank, then you should be able to follow through on how is this bank performing. Banks on an annual basis display their financial performance or financial statements in all widely circulated news medias or print, for example, newspapers. They are all available on their websites. They are available. The central bank also gives us that information so that you track. At any one point, if you feel like the bank that you deposit your money with is deteriorating or is not keeping at the same pace with a financial performance that they started with, you can make that decision at that time. And of course, also lastly, I want to emphasize that this 10 million actually covers 98% of all depositors in Uganda. And interestingly, out of that 93, we found out that 93% of the 98 have a minimum of $1 million in their bank accounts at any one point.
Now, madam, go slow and simplify what you're saying.
So
this percentage is
so we have 98% of Ugandans covered with this limit, the 10 million. But when you dig further into all account holders...
Now let me get you still clear.
Yes.
90 what percent?
98%.
Covered by the 10 million.
Have less than 10 million.
Yes.
Yes.
Now I'm getting you as I was making some mathematics.
When we even go further, 93% have less than 1 million.
Yes.
So the coverage we have is actually very high.
Ugandans are poor.
Many people are being covered.
Ugandans
the people who have the money are 2%.
Yeah.
2%. And it is, the central bank had a research early this year which showed that the people actually who earn more than $1 million come to about more than 10 million come to about 2%, 1% in the range. And if we go back to also NSSF, the number of savers within NSSF, the number is almost around the same, about 1 million. So it corresponds to what we are seeing on the DPF side with the figures the central bank has and NSSF has as well. So we believe that the limit we have set of $3,000 is sufficient to cover the majority of Ugandans. We came from a position where the previous limit was much lower. We had set at $1,000, which as at 2016 was 3 million. Shillings, and we felt at the time that the 3 million was not covering as many people. So we ended up raising it to 3,000, where now we find that the majority of Ugandans who are banking are well covered within the 10 million limit.
Okay, that well explained. You're still with us here on UBC TV. You allow me go for a short break now. When I return, we are going to be discussing more, getting to know what the Deposit Protection Fund does in case of an eventuality. You're assured of your money. And of course, when I return, I want to also know that people have more than one account in a single bank. That's why when you go to withdraw your money, you get to know this account, which account, but that is something to discuss when we return.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
It's our mission to secure your money.
Protecting your money is as important as earning it. It is for this reason that the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda, DPF, was established by the government of Uganda to provide deposit protection to customers of regulated financial institutions. In the unlikely event that your commercial bank credit institution or microfinance deposit taking institution fails, the DPF will pay you up to 10 million Uganda shillings. Keep your personal information such as national identification number, mobile phone or an alternative bank account updated with your banker. Terms and conditions apply. For more information, contact DPF at Aha Towers, Plot 7 Lodell Road, Kampala. Call 0312 206 400 or visit our website at www.dpf.or.ug.
We are the DPF. We protect your money. Protection Fund of Uganda.
The Ministry of Health informs the public that there are confirmed cases of Ebola in Uganda. We, however, urge the public not to panic as the situation is being managed. The Ministry of Health further reminds the public to be on the lookout for any persons who may show signs and symptoms of Ebola. These include high body temperature, abdominal pains, diarrhea, vomiting, bleeding from the body openings such as the nose, eyes, and mouth. Please inform the nearest health worker immediately if you see anyone with these signs and symptoms. To prevent Ebola from spreading further, please take the following preventive measures: regular washing of hands with water and soap, avoid handshaking and hugging, avoiding any contact with any suspected Ebola patients. Any person who dies suddenly should not be buried but reported to the nearest health worker or LC1 immediately. For further information, please call the Ministry of Health toll-free number on 0800 100 066 or send a free SMS to your report on 8500. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from UNICEF and World Health Organization.
Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here, in the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey, in the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth, in the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the pearl of Africa.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome back from that break. We are still discussing issues of money, and one person wants to be, money is like blood. You don't have it, you find it very hard. Someone told me even things you used to get for free. Today, my friend, it is about money. Those things money can't buy, man, you what? Hey, wake up. But now, it is also very important for you to protect your money as it is important for you to make your money. It would be very unfortunate for you to work hard, make your money, but fail to secure your money. So this is where the Deposit Protection Fund comes in, to ensure that no matter what happens, your money is safe. You have a fallback position. You don't shout like these people, then you're yelling and the money is nowhere to be seen. You know, recently there is a friend in some place, due to electric connections, the house was on fire. So neighbors, you know, in Africa we care. So these neighbors come to help, and one trying to help assessed something. I don't know if you really, sometimes you go to these markets, but of course there are people who use, you know, books. I don't know if you guys ever come across them. They even sell them, banker. You find someone buying a bank. So this person looking around, so banker. Now among the first thing he did was, of course, definitely, take banker. This lady was crying out, "Ne banker yange wajitute." But bank ayo bagitutte. I mean, when I look at all banks, I've not heard of any bank where that has been robbed. So bank ayo bagitutte. So people must move away from bank bagitutte because all your worries and fears have been dealt with by the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda. And this is where I bring in Alan. If I have more than one account in that particular financial institute, what do I do? What happens? What is my fate?
Okay. So we have different ways we handle that question. We have instances where Robert will have 3 accounts. You'll have a salary account, you'll have another account for maybe business, but they are all in your single name, the one you have on your national ID. So in that instance, those 2 accounts will be considered as one. That is Robert. So they will be put together, and the coverage you shall have is to you as Robert in this particular bank X. So if you have 2 accounts, a salary account and a business account in your own names in the same institution, so assuming the salary account has 5 million and the business account has 15, we shall put them together and only cover you as an individual up to 10 million. But we have other instances where a lot of Ugandans are into investment clubs. They work with other people and they set up an account. In that instance, if Robert has a salary account, but also Robert is in an investment club where he has other partners, we consider those accounts separate. So the investment account will have its own coverage of 10 million, and Robert's account will have its coverage of 10 million. We also have other situations where Robert may be the musika, and Robert's name is put on the account of the estate as an administrator. Again, we follow the same rule that those accounts are different. When Robert is acting as an administrator, he's acting in a position of a trustee on behalf of other family members. That is different from Robert's personal account where he gets his salary. So we shall have a 10 million coverage of Robert's salary account. We shall have a 10 million coverage of the estate account. And we shall have a 10 million coverage for the investment club account. So that's how we approach how we cover individuals. We try to see whether they are working alone, working with others, or representing others. And so those, we consider them separate accounts for coverage.
Well,
just to add on that as well, is another scenario is the issues of joint accounts.
that's what I was actually going to come to.
So the issues of joint account. So if, I'm going to use Alan because we are picking from that. So Alan has an account in his name, and Alan has a joint account with his wife, for example. So those accounts will be, Alan's own account is up to a ton of 10 million, and Alan's account with the wife is also taken up to a ton of 10 million, if they are in the same account. But if it's one account and it's a family account, the joint account is what is in that bank that has closed, then the joint account is covered up to a limit of 10 million. Yes. So, and also one last thing is that at the point of payment, the remaining balance on the account will be offset any non-performing loan or any loan balances that may remain in that bank. So if you have a loan with the bank and your balance is, say, 7 million, they will first remove your obligations from that, and then they will repay you the balance to that.
Well, we are talking about assurance, money is there, you get this money, but something is intriguing my mind. How is DPF then funded? Alan?
Yeah. Yes, so it's a very interesting way DPF is funded. It's a government agency, and a lot of people would assume we get tax money to be provided.
When we hear government is struggling, we say our things, our...
Yes. So the idea behind deposit protection as a principle is that we should not be using tax money to resolve commercial banks and to pay back people when banks close. Remember, you gave a commercial bank money. They have lent to others, made profits, and paid you maybe a rate, an interest on your savings account, which may not be significant. So when that bank goes down, We do not want to go and use URA, the money URA has collected, to resolve a commercial bank. So the way the law has been designed is that it is the commercial banks themselves that provide, that pool money for DPF to maintain. That way, the resolution and the payout to depositors when banks close comes from the private sector, not from the public coffers. So it is the financial institutions that are licensed by Bank of Uganda and are deposit taking that contribute on an annual basis. They contribute money to the Deposit Protection Fund, and this is the pool of money we are growing to be able to pay back depositors when those banks are affected. So this is how we are funded. Of course, we have other arrangements that can be used in the event of a crisis. We can also go back to the treasury, to the government. In the event our money is used up, we can go to government and seek to replenish our books. And we also have arrangements with the central banks where we can provide our government securities as security, and the central bank can give us cash, and we can use that to pay back, as to pay you in the event of a bank closure. So we have so many arrangements we have put together, but the primary source of our funding is from the commercial banks that are regulated and licensed by Bank of Uganda.
Very interesting information here, but the core issue is confidence. That should you have your money in a financial institution, credited, monitored by the central bank, and of course, where the Deposit Protection Fund, this is a member, then you need not to worry that this bank will close, it will be liquidated, they will have court cases. Don't know why some commercial banks ever in court. Court cases, all these will affect you. Just know, as long as your money is there, Alan, Lisa, and a big team there, their purpose is to safeguard your money in case of any eventuality. But now this brings me to another question. Lisa,
Yes.
where do you keep this money that institutions contribute and all that? Is there another bank? Where do you keep this money?
Thank you so much, Robert. So in this same law that established the DPF, we have approved what we call investment asset classes, where we are permitted by law to invest this money. So when we receive premiums or contributions like Alan talked about from the commercial banks, these contributions are sent to the Bank of Uganda, just to emphasize that it does not go to a commercial bank. So the contributions are paid, or the premiums are paid to the Central Bank of Uganda, at which point then we, the DPF, make investments and we buy government treasury bills and treasury bonds for the sole purpose of safety and liquidity, to make sure that as and when this money is needed to pay in the event of a liquidation, the income is readily available. So we invest in government securities. These are treasury bills and treasury bonds. Treasury bills are securities that are less than 1 year, and treasury bonds in Uganda range from 2 years up to 20 years. So as and when they mature and pay income, the same income and maturities are also reinvested in newer tenures, for example. So we keep to make sure that that income grows at the fund. Yes.
Now, does DPF also protect deposits on mobile money? Because of late we have so many people who are using mobile money.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we do not cover mobile money balances at this point. The regulation or the law that covers that is the National Payment Systems Act, which is different from the Financial Institutions Act. But we know that government, the Ministry of Finance, supported by the Central Bank, are in conversations, working together with the UCC. They're in conversation on how to understand what needs to be done for mobile money. I know there are conversations whether the government can set up a mechanism to protect those balances. As and when this happens, DPF may be called upon to expand its mandate to be able to cover mobile money balances. But at the moment, we do not cover mobile money balances. We only use mobile money as a channel to pay. But the balances themselves, we do not cover at this point.
Well, relatedly, Alan, I've heard of a term bank run. And I always ask myself now, bank run. So I'm also interested how DPF also helps to minimize this occurrence. Because one thing I know is it's not a good thing also when it happens to a bank.
Yes. You raise a very interesting question there on the bank run. A bank run is a situation where when so many people have a fear about the safety of their money in their bank, they go and line up at that bank. And we saw that in 1999-2000 when people were lining up at Greenland Bank. The lines were very long, snaking up to down.
Oh, even recently,
Nakasero.
there is a bank, but of course it was taken over.
Yes.
We woke up one day, do you have an account in this bank? Can't mention that it was taken over, but you know that one.
Yes.
That has next to Constitutional Square, there.
Yes. Yeah.
That bank, that particular.
So when
but now it's no longer there.
So when there is a lot of
over.
fear in that part, people will rush to line up. So that running to your bank is summarized as a bank run. Okay, so it's not a very good situation to have because when people fear and they see everybody is lining up, even if you don't know what's going on, you also line up. And then it creates problems because people fear and translate that if this bank, people are lining up, then maybe also that bank has issues. So also in that bank, people will start lining up, but then everybody will line up at the different banks. And that creates a systemic problem, that multiple banks may have a problem because of one bank having an issue. So how does DPF come in? DPF, working closely with the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank, we are part of a framework that is called the Financial Sector Stability Forum, where we seek to ensure that the financial system is stable. Our small job as DPF is to ensure that the individuals that may not be sophisticated, may not have a very big understanding of these complex things about banks, are confident that they will get their money, they will get their 10 million in a very fast, convenient way without even having to come to their commercial bank to line up. That is our small contribution to minimizing bank runs. But of course we know there are other things that are done. The Ministry of Finance has work to do, the Central Bank has some work to do, but we also we participate in a small way to minimize the likelihood that a bank run will happen on a commercial bank. And the biggest way we do that is by giving confidence that an individual will get up to 10 million in the shortest time possible and in the most convenient way.
Well, more assurance why you should bank. Why you should bank. You know, some time back we had this issue of some bank is going to close. Now you hear this is happening to this tycoon, is having financial hardships. But like now you see, you people, we told you this bank is going to close, your money, you know. But you're rest assured, even at such a time, there's no reason why you should run there. Because at the tail end, there is light and the deposit protection fund is there for you. Now, do we, Lisa, do we have to pay any money to you with the depositors? Do we have membership? Do you know, for us to benefit from this? Or we can just rest assured, as long as we are working with an institution, bank with an institution that is accredited, is a member of the central bank.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Robert. So the answer is no. Depositors do not have to pay to the DPF or to the central bank. Like we've been, or like we've spoken to earlier, it is the licensed financial institutions that contribute in form of an annual premium to the DPF, which money is invested, and in that unlikely event, then we undertake the payout. But depositors, by law, are not required to pay to the DPF. And the principle is simple. I have deposited my money in a bank, and it is my deposits are a liability to the bank, so the bank uses those monies or the deposits to undertake short-term, medium-term or long-term lending back again in the financial system, and they use it to make profit to the bank. So in terms of, or in the principle of insurance, it is only recommended then that then the bank gets insurance for its depositors from the DPF in form of the annual premium that they pay.
Oh, then that is good. Now, Alan, some of us have dollar accounts. Are dollar accounts also covered?
I would say yes and no. It's a two-way question answer. That every deposit, whichever currency that it is, whether Kenya shillings, pounds, dollars, is covered. But the coverage is in Uganda shillings. So we will do a conversion at this point. If you have $1,000, we will calculate it as if it's 3.9 million in Uganda shillings. And so at payout, we will pay you 3.9 or whatever exchange rate it will be at that time is what we shall use to pay you. So yes, even foreign currency denominated deposits are covered, but they are covered in the local currency. The law, however, says something else. It also empowers us that in the event we see that there are more people saving in dollars, above 5% of total deposits, we are required to investigate whether the currency is Kenya shillings, dollars, and if it's necessary, we can actually create a portfolio, or we can create a pool of funds in that particular currency. So if we find that there are more Ugandans saving in Kenya shillings, we will then invest in Kenya shillings, go into Kenya, buy bonds in Kenya, invest in Kenya, and in the event of a payout, we can pay you in Kenya shillings. The law gives us the ability to do that. And we are still investigating to see how many Ugandans hold these accounts. Are they many? If they are really many, we will create a portfolio to pay them back in that currency they are holding. So the law is very flexible for us to be able to do these things, but at the moment, we are focused on Uganda shillings in terms of paying.
Lisa, did you want to supplement?
No.
Okay, a quick one still. Alan, now you see most of Ugandans today, you have money in the bank,
Yes.
you have a loan.
Yes.
Finding a loanless person is not easy of late. Mostly with these banks going out and enticing us. You're on your way home, then quickly. Then when you call it, you qualify, gentlemen, you qualify. How fast can I get a loan?
1 day.
1 day, 24 hours. Then this one has a wedding. This car, it's also disturbing me. Think let me go and top up and I get a better one. So what happens eventually if I have a loan with the bank?
Ideally, when a bank is closed, all loans, whether performing, whether someone is paying back on time, or the person has disappeared, automatically are supposed to be returned, paid back to that closed bank, because the bank is now no longer existing. So that is the principle.
So I have no reason to jubilate.
That's the principle. But the central bank has many options. The central, and in the example we are using on the bank on Kampala Road, they approached another bank in Nakasero to manage those who are paying back, such that they don't get disrupted. And the central bank maintained a small group of people who had failed to pay back completely. Now, for those people who have failed back to pay, ideal even for us, when we are going to pay the 10 million, we have to investigate whether you had an existing loan, whether that loan has been paid back, whether that loan is delinquent, you have run away, you are hiding. And so when you come to us and say, I'm claiming my 10 million, we will remove or we will reduce, we will net off the balance that you owed on the loan. And we see it a lot. Some people owed, say, 2 million, they haven't paid, and they say, I have 10 million. And so we would remove the 2 million of the loan that is outstanding and give you the balance of 8 million. So this is how we go about managing the issue of loans. For those who are going to be paid out, we shall net, we shall consider, we shall work with the credit reference bureaus to identify the status of the borrowers and match that with the information we have about your deposits. And if we find you still have a loan in that particular bank that hasn't been paid back, we shall reduce and pay you the balance.
Well, very interesting conversation regarding security of your deposits in banks. But time can fly.
Yeah.
However, I can't leave without getting your parting shot. And I'll begin with the known ladies first.
Thank you so much. So thank you so much, Robert. My parting shot is, now that we know that the DPF will provide protection up to a ton of 10 million Uganda shillings, and that coverage is for 98% of all of us. Two things, or what that says then is that we are confident in the banks that we put our money into, that in any unlikely event, at least up to that ton shall be covered. But it also then gives us another flip side. If you are going to keep over and above 10 million, then you need to know your bank. If for any one reason you have to keep 100 million in a bank, the research or what we take is that you are a sophisticated depositor. You know the bank that you are putting that 100 million into, and it's only prudent that you follow and look out for the financial performance of that bank at any one point to make sure that where you are keeping your money or whichever return you are getting out of keeping that huge amount in the bank, you know where the money is being put, and then you can make informed decisions at that particular point in time. And then second to that is we want to encourage all depositors in the country to make sure that at any one point when you walk to a banking hall, if you go to withdraw, if you go to pay school fees, if you go to do any transaction, just walk to the nearest assistance that is available and make sure that your information is up to date in terms of your NIN. This is now very important. Your national ID details, in terms of your names, that they are matching the national ID. You provide an alternative contact number, but also make sure that as it is available, you let the bank have an alternative bank account. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And last but not least, the gentleman, the smart gentleman this morning.
Thank you.
Let me have your parting shot.
Thank you, Robert. I think very similar to what Lisa shared, that it starts with knowing your bank as an individual. We do encourage depositors to take time to read the financial statements of their bank. These statements come out every April to May of each year, and commercial banks put this information in the newspapers. They put this information on their websites, and we should take time to know which institution are we putting money in. That is important as a personal responsibility of understanding the safety and security of your money, and we would encourage you to do that as individuals, as depositors as well. But the second thing really that now for us as DPF that is vital is around quality of information. The quality of information that you provide to your bank, and that information is also provided to us around your name, around your national identification, around your mobile number, your alternative mobile number or a next of kin, an alternative bank channel. That set of information is important for us to be able to meet the corporate strategy of paying out in 7 days. And so we are working with the banks to come back to their customers to update information in a quality and in the detail that we would be able to use very well to pay out quickly as possible. And finally, just to share that the confidence that we offer, we are offering confidence in the financial sector by providing a light at the end of the tunnel. In the event a bank closes, the DPF stands ready by law and by the way we are organized to pay you up to 10 million. And this is something that we have built capacity over the last 5 years, and we are able now to take our mandate and discharge our duties correctly. And so we encourage people to feel confident in their banks, knowing that even in the worst case scenarios, there is a way out provided by the Deposit Protection Fund. And so we encourage depositors, the general public, to take time to work with the banks, serve with the formal financial sector, because there are additional measures to protect their deposits. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Lisa, and of course, Alan. It's been a very informative discussion, I must say. But above all, creating confidence, practical confidence, because there is the Deposit Protection Fund. So this is practical. So there is no reason why you should not bank with a formal institution. Your money is guaranteed, that even when the bank closes or is liquidated, you're sure that you will secure your money. Have a lovely day. See you tomorrow. God willing, stay safe. Go and bank your money. Good morning.